And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the information on pages Excel 66 and 67, in which we're going to be renaming and moving a worksheet. Of course, by default, an Excel workbook initially contains one worksheet named Sheet 1, although you can add sheets at any time. Now, each sheet name appears on a Sheet tab at the bottom of the worksheet. When you open a new workbook, the first worksheet, Sheet 1, is the active sheet. To move from sheet to sheet, you can click any sheet tab at the bottom of the worksheet window. The sheet tab scrolling buttons, located to the left of the sheet tabs, are useful when a workbook contains too many sheet tabs to display at once. Now, to make it easier to identify the sheets in a workbook, you can actually rename each sheet and add color to the tabs. You can also organize them in a logical way. For instance, to better track performance goals, you can name each workbook sheet for an individual salesperson, and you can move the sheets so they appear in an alphabetical order. So what we're going to do is that we're going to take a look at step 1 on page Excel 66. And of course, you notice it said by default, one sheet is generally what they give you in a workbook. However, you notice that we have multiple sheets here, and we want to click on the Sheet 2 tab, and in which you probably take a look and it's like, whoa, there's some new information there. I never knew that was there. And of course, that's one thing about these files. They call these files workbooks because there's multiple sheets that can be inside of them. So in this case, when we click on the Sheet 2 tab underneath here, Sheet 2 becomes the active tab, and of course it appears now a little bit stand out in front of Sheet 1. And this is the worksheet that contains the budgeting, advertising, expenses that's on there. On step 2, it tells us that we want to click this Sheet 1 tab. So we're going to go back to the sheet that we have been working on, and this contains the actual advertising expenses, and now becomes active again. Step 3 tells us that we want to double click the Sheet 2 tab. And of course, we're going to double click that. And when we double click it, notice that it selects Sheet 2 on there, and we're actually able to type. And in this case, we're going to type in the word budget. So here we typed in the word budget, and we're going to press enter. And now we've put in a new name for Sheet 2, and it's automatically replaced the default name on the tab. Now, worksheets can have names that are up to 31 characters, and they can include spaces and punctuation. Of course, a quick tip as well, you can also rename a sheet by right-clicking the tab, clicking the rename on the shortcut menu, or typing the new name and then pressing enter. On step 4, it tells us that we want to right-click the budget tab. So here we are, and we're going to right-click this budget tab. And then it tells us we want to point to the tab color on the shortcut menu. And of course, notice we have some different colors here. And of course, as you point to them, the live preview appears, and of course, there are some different colors that appear. And it tells us we want to choose the bright green accent 4 lighter 40% color. And of course, it's going to be on the 4th row. And here's 1, 2, 3, 4. And it also tells us it's on the 3rd column from the right. So when you go to the right, there's 1, 2, 3. And of course, there's bright green, accent 4, lighter 40%. That's the color that we need. We're going to click on that on there. And of course, now we can tell that the tab has now color to it. So it makes it stand out just a little bit more. Of course, a quick tip on there, if we ever wanted to delete a sheet, we can click its tab, and then we can click the delete list arrow in the cells group, and then click delete sheet. Of course, if we needed to insert a new worksheet, we can click on the new worksheet button, which is this round button right here, which if we point to it, notice it says new sheet, which is just to the right of the sheet tabs. Step 5 on there tells us that we want to double click the Sheet 1 tab. Of course, in this case, we'll do the other method on there. We're going to deviate a little bit from the book on there. I'm going to right-click on this Sheet 1 tab, and I'm going to click on Rename. And this just shows you a different way that you can rename the different sheets. So I click on Rename, and now I can type in where it says Actual. Once I have that, I can click enter, and of course we can now notice that the color of the budget tab, which we have on there, changes depending on whether it's the active tab or not. Now when the actual tab is active, the color of the budget tab changes to the green tab color that you selected. Now of course we decided that we want to rearrange the order of these sheets so that the budget tab is to the left of the actual tab on there. Of course this is just some ways that you can organize your workbook a little bit easier. To organize so we can put the budget tab to the left of the actual tab, what we need to do is that we need to click on the budget tab and press and hold down our mouse button, and then we need to drag it to the left, and you'll probably notice that there's a little black down pointing arrow that appears, and of course that's going to show us where our sheet's going to be moved. When we drag it to the left of the actual tab and release our mouse button, we now notice that the budget has been moved to the left of the actual tab. Now of course as you drag, we notice that the pointer changed to, it looks like a little piece of paper with an arrow or a mouse pointer on it, and that is the sheet relocation pointer. And of course a small black triangle, which we've seen earlier, just above the tab shows the position the move sheet will be in when you release the mouse button. Now the first sheet in the workbook is now the budget sheet that's on there. Now of course you can move multiple sheets by pressing and holding the shift button while clicking the sheets that you want to move, and then you can drag those sheets to their new location. Of course a quick tip on there, if you have more sheet tabs than are visible, you can move between sheets by using the scrolling or the tab scrolling buttons to the left of the sheet tabs, which are these right here. Now they'll be highlighted if there are some additional sheets that's there. So if I would click on sheet 3, let's say I added in another sheet or several other sheets that's on there, I would need several of them to continue adding those. But if I would just continue adding these on there, of course you notice that we can have lots of sheets that's there. But once I start getting into arrangement and starts pushing it around, that's when you can see that the scroll tabs are active that's on there. Of course once again, if you ever needed to delete a sheet that's on there, you can either right click on it and then just click on delete, that's there, or you can go up here to the cells group and you can click on delete, and you can click on delete sheet, and we can do that several times to delete the different sheets that we created there. And of course once it gets to an area to where you can see all the sheets, then of course the scroll buttons are no longer active on there as well. So we can continue deleting these just so that we get back to the original 3 sheets that we did have originally on there. And like I said, you can do that in different ways. Just choose whichever method is most convenient for you on there. Once we have that, and we've done that, let's go to step 7, and it tells us that we want to click on the actual sheet tab once again. And this time we want to click on the page layout button, which that is on the status bar, and which that's over here next to the zoom slider. And of course there's the page layout button down here. And of course when we click on this, that's going to show us what it's going to look like when it's printed. And of course this is going to open up the page layout view. And of course here we're going to enter your name in the left header text box. So right over here we're going to put your name in, and I'll type my name in here. And of course once we have that, it tells us to click anywhere in the worksheet to deselect the header. And of course now you notice that once you put the header in, it's going to go to multiple sheets. Now on step 8, it tells us that we want to click on the page layout tab, because of course notice we have 2 different pages here for this workbook, and we want to reduce this down to 1 page. So we're going to go to the page layout tab, and then it tells us that we want to click on the orientation button in the page setup group, and we're going to change this to landscape. And of course when we do that, notice that we're a little bit better. It's on 1 page right now. That's on there, and we see that it's getting a little bit better. Of course we still have some information down here on another sheet as well. Now of course any sheet that's highlighted in white and everything, those are ones that are going to print. Anything that is grayed out, those will not print. Those are blank sheets and they will not print. Now step 9 tells us that we're going to right click the sheet 3 tab. And of course, once we do that, we're going to click on delete, just like we did the other ones a little bit earlier. And then of course, we're going to press on our control and home to get back up to the top of our spreadsheet, and we're going to save our spreadsheet. Now if we take a look on page Excel 67, it tells us a little bit about copying, adding, and deleting worksheets. Now it tells us that there are times when you may want to copy a worksheet. For example, a workbook may contain a sheet with Q1 expenses, and you want to use that sheet as the basis for a sheet containing Q2 expenses. Now to copy a sheet within the same workbook, you can press and hold the Control button, and you can drag the Sheet tab to the desired location on the tab area down there at the bottom. And then you release the mouse button. Then you can release the Control button. And that's when a duplicate sheet appears with the same name as the copied sheet, followed by a 2 in parentheses, which indicates that it's a copy. Now you can then rename the sheet to a more meaningful name. Of course, to copy a sheet to a different workbook, both the source and destination workbooks must be open. And then you select the sheet to copy or move, and then you can right-click it, and then you can click Move or Copy in the shortcut menu, which if we would want to copy this or move this, we can right-click that, and there's the Move or Copy button there. And that would complete the information in the Move or Copy dialog box that would appear. And of course, we want to be sure to click the Create a Copy checkbox if we're making a copy rather than moving the worksheet. Of course, carefully check your calculation results when you move or copy a worksheet. And of course, you can add multiple worksheets to a workbook by clicking the Home button on the ribbon and pressing and holding the Shift key, then clicking the number of existing worksheet tabs that correspond with the number of sheets you want to add. And of course, clicking the Insert List arrow in the Cells group on the Home tab, and then clicking the Insert Sheet. You can delete multiple worksheets from a workbook by clicking the Home tab on the ribbon and pressing and holding the Shift key and clicking the Sheet tabs of the worksheets you want to delete, and then clicking the Delete List arrow in the Cells group on the Home tab, and then clicking Delete Sheet. That's there. So that concludes the information that's on pages Excel 66 and 67. When we go to the next page, we're going to be talking about checking the spelling, and also we're going to be fitting this all on one page on there. So you're ready to move on to the final video of Excel 2013 Unit C.